right. All right. So we are back, America, with our final installment on protecting your children with Elon Gerberg. Just for your, if you're really liking this content and you want to see more of it, please comment on this video, comment on the bottom, say you want more. We'll bring Elon back. I'm pretty sure he would love to come back on to discuss this topic. So we'll continue this conversation if you decide that you want us to be back. But if you like our content overall, please don't forget to like us, subscribe, and follow us on Political Pulse Live on Facebook, also on YouTube at Political Pulse Live, and on Twitter it's Political Pulse 2. So again, we're just dive on in. We're stretched for time, so we want to dive on into the subject of, again, protecting your children, following up on where we left off last, which was, again, your rally, Elon. So if you want to go, I don't know who wants to ask the question, Lynn or Bill, on what took place on the rally, or.
Well, let's talk about how you met conservative Ant, and a little bit about Ant and what he does and how it tied into you bringing him to the rally. So go ahead.
Sure. So listen, one thing that I'll tell you is a big tactic from when you're speaking out against the sexualization and indoctrination of your children. It's really something that you would think that everybody could get behind. But unfortunately, there is a tactic that's used against parents, and that's basically to polarize them, to gaslight them into thinking that somehow if you're standing up against, your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old being talked to about, certain topics that they're not mature enough to have, that you're in some way homophobic or transphobic. And so I ran into conservative Anthony. He is an openly gay man. He is one of the most followed people on social media, specifically on TikTok and Instagram. And he was very, very, in the forefront of speaking out against the sexualization of our children from the perspective of somebody who's part of the LGBTQ community. So when I met him, I asked him, what are your thoughts? I mean, to parents who are being, gaslit into thinking that speaking up for their children is somehow homophobic. And this was the interview I had with him that day.
Okay.
Basically, I was asking him, I said, conservative Anthony, what do you say to parents that, are standing up for their children about being sexualized, about, teachers having conversations about gender and sexual identity and being told that they're homophobic. And basically what he says in this video is that it's not homophobic. Parents are.
Can you guys hear the video? Can you hear the video?
No.
Oh, okay. Let me stop and let's start over, because that's terrible. Okay, here we go. Let me see if we can do that again.
Maybe test the video first, and then.
Here we go. Let's try.
They're not homophobic. What it is they want to protect.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, great. Here we go. Let's go.
The innocence of their children until they're ready. And it's not a teacher's job to teach in the classroom things that have to do with certain questions. It's up to the parents. And so for that reason, that needs to stay out of the classroom.
Absolutely.
It needs to stay in your household.
Thank you so much. Last question I asked you.
Yeah.
When you were coming up in school,
Yeah.
you came out, you turned out to be a gay man who was able to speak for what they believe in. When you were coming up in school, did you feel like you weren't accepted, or there wasn't a place for you where you felt like you couldn't be yourself in school, or that you just weren't getting the support that you needed?
No, never. And you know what? I think back to myself, and I think that if I was in school in this time, maybe I wouldn't have been a gay man. Maybe they would have indoctrinated me or brainwashed me to become a woman. And that's the issue, is because when you tell a kid that they can be whatever they want, they're going to do everything in their power to be whatever they want.
Exactly.
So it's important to understand that just can't happen.
Well, listen, I want to thank you, Conservative Anthony, for what you're doing, man. You're more than funny. You're speaking.
And so that was the day that I met conservative Anthony. I mean, I was really excited to meet him because you know, I'm just trying to be a good parent, and parents out there are afraid to speak out against this attack on our children. And, you know, they're being called homophobic or they're being transphobic, but I'm not. We are not. You know, I consider conservative Anthony Raimondi, a friend of mine, a lifetime friend now, because he is taken upon himself to speak out against this attack on our children. And that's why I think his organization, which is, you know, grown exponentially, is such an impactful group, Gays Against Groomers, because they are basically saying, you are not going to hijack gay people and use us as a way to try to shut up parents. We are with parents, and we stand with parents to say, let the kids be kids, let them find themselves.
Yeah, and that's very strong when it comes from a gay person, right? Because they can't use that against a gay person.
Exactly right.
Right.
And that's what you see.
They'll find a way.
You see people that are trying to gaslight parents, because nobody wants to be homophobic. Nobody wants to be called a homophobe or a transphobe. Nobody wants to be called a fascist or a Nazi. Nobody wants to be called a grandma killer. Nobody wants to be any of those things. Right. But they use those tactics to shut you down, because once you're called one of those things, nobody wants to be that. And if you're labeled that, people don't want to associate with you. But that is why I'm speaking so vigilantly against this, is we cannot shut up. We have to, as parents, it is incumbent upon us to stand up for our children. And if we can't stand up for our children against being sexualized, what can you stand up for as a parent?
Yeah. You know, it's funny because when I go out through my day in business or in life or anywhere I go, I meet people and I don't know what their sexual orientation is all the time, right? It never even comes to my mind. If they're nice people and we engage in business or a conversation, or I meet them for the first time and we just talk, I mean, I don't start judging people, what they do, where they sleep, who they sleep. This is such crap, right? what has been brought into our society and these social issues that are being thrown at us to distract us. We don't think this way as humans. They're trying to make us think this way now, or at least make it like everybody thinks this way. I mean, it's a waste of our time, and we have to actually fight these things.
Were there more guys like conservative Anthony that you've met along the that, I mean, obviously at the rally you said there were some more people there, right?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I think that we had maybe 15, you know, gay, lesbian, and others that were part of the LGBTQ community, because quite frankly, they are feeling like this is taking them steps back, right? Many people that I spoke to, they said, we fought so hard just to be able to love who we want to love. And now, you know, there's like this push to say, well, if you're standing up for children, you're anti-LGBTQ. And that's basically getting parents to think, you know, that this maybe, you know, it's gay people who are coming after people, but that it isn't, right? And a lot of these gay people I spoke to, they feel like they've been erased, right? Because all of a sudden, you're no longer able to be a man and like men, or be a man and like more feminine things. Now it's like, well, if you like more feminine things, you're trapped in the wrong body and you're really a girl. And so I feel like, you know, not only
gender fluid, whatever that is.
Correct. And that's a whole other thing. It's like, you know, 2 years ago, it was like there's male and female. It's simple biology. You cannot procreate unless you have both those things.
Correct.
And now it's to the point where if you don't say that, if you're against that, you know, if that is a fact and you believe that fact, then somehow you are against the LGBTQ community, but that is just not the case. It's confusing kids that are already trying to grasp so much in life, right? That, you know, you're teaching them that they're in the wrong bodies. You're teaching them that you can just change. You know, you can be a dog, you can be a cat, you can be a boy. And quite frankly, it's erasing womanhood, right?
Yeah.
A man can simply just put on a wig and put on, throw a tampon in their purse, and all of a sudden they're a woman. Well,
Yeah.
no, you're not
That
a
would
woman.
women's
And it's
sports
not the
too.
right thing to
That's,
teach our kids, and it's an attack on our women. Sorry, Lindsay, I
yeah.
don't mean to put you off.
No, I was gonna say that, like, the whole women's sports thing, right? Like trans people in women's sports, they're basically really erasing. I mean, for me as a woman, I also feel like, hey, wait, didn't we fight for all this? And then all of a sudden, like, trans people are gonna take over the sports. Like, what, what's
But
going on?
their
Correct.
struggles has been as real as yours, Lynn.
It opens a whole nother can of worms. What bathrooms are they using?
Oh
Right?
gosh.
I mean, are they
Wait, speaking of
absolutely-
cats, I have a comment. A friend of mine who had his kids go to school, and there was like a class picture taken, right? And I think I mentioned this somewhere before, but anyway, there's a kid dressed as a cat, and they were saying, "Oh, is it like a costume party?" And they're like, "No, it's not a costume party. This kid actually identifies as a cat."
Yeah.
So in the bathroom, there are kitty litter, like for these kids to go to the bathroom. So that's a little out of hand, right? We're not
It's not
really
funny.
putting down, the structure for kids to grow into. We're like letting them go nuts on things, and I don't
That's
see.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
And my
well,
daughter said that on the way to school this morning. She was like, if she would just switch something, she'd switch to a cat. I didn't realize how serious of a thing that was.
She probably sees the kitty litter.
Well, this is how it starts, guys, right? It
Yeah.
starts to teach, you're allowing kids, there's no discipline. We're not giving kids the mental, help that they need so desperately. In fact, we're encouraging it. And it's a very, sad thing for our kids. And the biggest thing that you'll see is, Linsu, you just mentioned that, but I have mentioned that in the past, and people are saying, you know what, now you're trying to polarize other people and really to get them worried. That stuff's not happening. Kids are not really being taken to drag shows. The books that Brenda Pham uncovered to get out of the schools, those weren't really in there. You're on the new thing and you're just trying. No, we are not. Parents, it's time that you open your eyes and stop being so naive. I challenge you, take a look in just this past month, the Balenciaga ad campaigns,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
The Project Veritas uncovering the dean of students bringing butt plugs and dildos to be passed out under the guise of sexual, acceptance.
Education.
It's inappropriate. Strippers and drag queens do not belong in our schools. Dildos and butt plugs do not belong in our schools, right? I mean, the American Girl doll, just in time for the holidays. My daughter has an American Girl doll. She will never get another one. How sad, because the literature that they're handing out is encouraging young kids to take puberty blockers if they're not in the right body. These are kids that are as young as 3, 4, 5. And people wonder why parents are on so high alert. Well, hello, they're being attacked from every facet of their lives. Their toys, their music, their entertainment, their school. If some parents don't know what's going on, it's incumbent upon parents that do know to open other parents' eyes and tell them, don't be afraid and don't be gaslit into speaking out against it, because it's a direct, deliberate attack on our children. And if we don't band together, gay people, Black people, white people, Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter. We all should stand for our children's innocence and against anything that attacks that. And unfortunately, there is a big push to make parents and people think that they're somehow doing the wrong thing by speaking out against that. We cannot be gaslit. And, in one of the clips I had sent you, Brenda Pham, for example, she is being dragged through the mud because she spoke out against children being groomed, which many of times can lead to sex trafficking,
Yes.
which is running rampant in Broward County. As a school board member, she should be speaking out against that, and should be applauded for doing so. But we've gotten to the point now where, for example, Channel 7 News, WSBN, came to the rally to come to speak to.
I'm going to show this while you're speaking about it, okay?
Sure. So Channel
This is
7.
a perfect example of what you were saying, because now they're suppressing what the parents should be finding out.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So it's not this video, Lindsay.
I know. I got you.
So I hear.
Hold on. For some reason.
So
There's a lot of.
while you're bringing it up, you
Yeah,
know,
go ahead.
there are, you know, we stood in solidarity. Here's Channel 7. So we stood in solidarity. I'm standing there, a Jewish man next to conservative Anthony, a gay man next to Eulalie Jimenez, who is a, you know, Cuban woman. So a woman that is a minority, a gay man, and myself all spoke in solidarity, and we were explaining to Channel 7, we are all here not because we're homophobic, not because we're transphobic, because we are speaking across all lines. Doesn't matter the type of person you are, or what your orientation is, or who your political affiliation is. We are all against the sexualization of our children. And the moment that Channel 7 realized that that was really what was happening, when they were really looking for what in my view would be an anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ rally, because there was counter protests that were claiming that we were anti-LGBTQ, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. We were standing in solidarity with gay people against this attack. So the moment that they realized that we were in solidarity, speaking up and standing up for children, this interview never got aired. Channel 7 never aired this anywhere. The only thing that they aired was, if you'll see all the way over on the right side, over the guy with the phone shoulder, all the way past the barricades there were Proud Boys that showed up, not for our cause. They weren't part of the rally whatsoever. In my opinion, they showed up because there was counter rallies that were held by Antifa that were telling people to bring in masks and rage. And there was a lot of people that didn't show up to the rally to speak because they were afraid. And in my opinion, they showed up because of that. And what happened was, when Brenda Pham spoke very eloquently, she got books that literally were pornography out of our libraries and our schools. She spoke out against the sexualization of our kids. And all the news legacy media wanted to talk about was how there was Proud Boys standing 20 feet away that had nothing to do with our rally. They were not affiliated with our organizations whatsoever, but because they showed up to a public setting that we have no control over, and Brenda spoke on behalf of the children, they're trying to smear her. And it's absolutely disgusting. And I commend Brenda for standing strong in her tracks. It's exactly, she is a role model for parents across the country. She is speaking up for the children. She is doing the right thing, and she's not going to be smeared. But that's what the media is trying to do.
So as we segue into discussing about Brenda Pham, I met Brenda while we were both campaigning to run for school board. Brenda and I ran on similar platforms. You know, there were some things that for me concerned with the educational process, but it was also exactly what Brenda stayed on the entirety of her campaign trail, which was, again, removing these types of materials from schools, removing this type of information from being, you know, shoved into the face of young children. This was something that Brenda campaigned on and won on. Her constituents knew what they were getting when they voted for Brenda Pham. So for her to be at that rally, no surprise, right? And she was not there with Proud Boys, like you said. She was there at an event where the Proud Boys were like some odd hundreds of feet away. But somehow your interview didn't make it to the news. But the Sun Sentinel has been harping for the last week about Brenda Pham hosting an anti-gay hate rally Proud Boy event, speaking against this. So how do you feel about your school board representative, do you feel as though your school board representative has the full-on right, especially when she was voted in on the platform of protecting your children's or your right as a parent to the content your children receive in the school? How do you feel about Brenda Pham on that?
Yeah, I commend her for being there, and
Right.
I think that she should be there, and she should be applauded that she is. And it's sad that we're in a point in our lives where she is being attacked for speaking up on protecting children. That's what parents want.
Mhm.
That's what she was elected upon. And,
Yes.
you know, it's very sad. And, you know, let me tell you something. Sarah Leonardi, who is being very vocal about speaking out against Brenda Pham speaking there, she is the same woman who brought young children to a gay bar, okay, where it said on the walls, it's not going to lick itself.
Wow.
So let's really focus on what is at stake here. I will tell you, you know, Mo, what I've learned very quickly is when you stand up for children, you would think that everybody would be on your side and we would all stand in solidarity. But there is a lot of pushback on it, and it brings out the most evil ugliness of people that you have ever seen. And it was running rampant on the other side in that rally. And nobody wanted, all these people that reported about it, CBS, NBC, you know, the only ones that were actually there, Sun Sentinel, none of them were there. None of them spoke to us to see exactly what they were there, what we were speaking for. Nobody wanted to speak about how Gays Against Groomers, a group of thousands upon thousands of gay people, joined us in solidarity to speak out against the sexualization of our children. It was all about how can we smear Brenda Pham. And listen, they've smeared me too. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, said that we held a hate rally. And, you know, and the ADL is literally was made to stop anti-Semitism. I am a Jewish man. I am a practicing Jew. I stood there with gay people, and we stood together to speak out against this. So anybody who would have been there and spoke to us, like WSVN, who did speak to us, they knew the story. They didn't want to run it. The people who did run it, the outlets that did run it, were not there, did not speak to us, and ran with a narrative, just like calling the Parental Rights and Education Bill the Don't Say Gay bill. It is a narrative that couldn't be farther from the truth. Why do you want to speak to a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader, a third grader about sex? It's absolutely disgusting. And any parent should be behind that. But it's the ugliness of people. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people who do want to groom children that are going to do anything they possibly can to try to smear the brave people who are speaking out against this attack on our children and try to ruse people into believing that we're something that we're not. We are good parents. We are concerned citizens. We are gay people that are being used as pawns to try to sexually attack children, and we all stood together against it. And that was the biggest story of the weekend, and that's what should have been covered. And Bill, to your point, is exactly what is the reason why nobody trusts legacy media anymore. That is why Twitter is so important, because you can go directly to the source. I can post the videos, boots on the ground, of what actually was occurring. And that's all we have, because people who just tune into the news or sourcing the ADL saying that Elon Gerberg of Florida Fathers for Freedom is a right-wing extremist hate group, it's a joke. And quite frankly, it's very sad for the state of the future of America and our children, who we should all be banding together to protect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like you should run for office.
I know.
that was a one heck of a speech, man.
Listen, I mean,
yeah, you have my vote.
I speak passionately about it because I don't need to write anything down, right? I didn't, you know, listen, I do very well as a real estate agent, and I've thought about going into politics because I'm like, if somebody else doesn't do it, who's going to do it? And I'm just trying to do the best that I possibly can to try to get everybody to realize what is going on. Guys, gals, mothers, fathers, concerned citizens, the LGBTQ community, we are all in solidarity on this. These are kids we're talking about, kids, right? If you can't defend kids, if you can't stand up for them, what can you stand for? And it's not something that, you know, I have to write down or really gear up. It's very easy to be passionate about it, especially when you have kids on your own, of your own.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that this is where we've come.
Well, listen, there's
children is a crime.
There is, you know, we cannot be gaslit. All of us have to, it is our duty to continue to push back and enlighten people as to really what is going on, right? Because we don't hate anybody. This is not a hate thing. This is a love thing. It's a love thing for our children.
That's right.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Listen, I've listen, we can go on for eons about this subject. But unfortunately, this is all we have time for, at least on the air for now. So again, we encourage anyone who was watching tonight, if you heard this, if you hear our passion, if you really like the content of what was going on, please leave a comment. If you want more, if you want Elon to come back on, comment on there, bring him back, make a song out of it.
Follow us on Florida Fathers for Freedom. We'll tell you how we can get you involved. We're continuing to expose this attack on our children. And I think that there's more and more people who are waking up to what is going on. Nobody is behind butt plugs and dildos entering our schools. I promise you that. And if you show these videos to any person, I think any right-minded person will be right there with us. And that's what we need to do. Let's continue to expose what's going on, and let's continue to protect our children by any means.
Well,
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Definitely.
Yeah, excellent job. And, you know, I hope that people that watch this, and as we put this out into social media, more and more people start following you and taking up this cause, because it's of the utmost importance that we protect our children. Like
Florida Fathers for Freedom. Follow us, and listen, we appreciate what you guys are doing. I mean, I think that, you know, this podcast that you guys are holding is really allowing, you know, people who are in the fight that may not have, you know, the spotlight to really get their message across, to get it out there. So you guys are doing a tremendous public service as well. And, you know, I know that this is all volunteer work, so I appreciate you guys doing it as well. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Means a lot. But no, definitely. Again, please follow Florida Fathers for Freedom. I've been following them since July now, so I definitely like what I'm seeing, and I hope to be more involved in the future. Again, please, if you want to see Elon back on, comment, tell us to bring him back. We will definitely love to have him back on in the future. And for us, make sure you are, if you are liking the content, please follow us on Political Pulse, on Facebook, Political Pulse Live, on YouTube, Political Pulse Live. Don't forget the @ symbol. And on Twitter, it is Political Pulse 2. So until the next time we meet, America, please have a wonderful rest of your night. Everyone, we're signing out. Tell them goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good night,
you, Elon.
America. Thanks, Elon. See you next time.